And record too.
You're getting a lot more. So, I'm very happy to be with you. COVID stopped my visits to India for some time. Happy to be able to come back. Looking at the life of Abraham. The chapter 20 of Genesis. Now, when we come to this point in the life of Abraham, God has already given His promises to Abraham that He will give him many children and they will come from Sarah. And He has said He will give him the land. And He has already destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah by this time. And all of these things are happening in quick succession. Whereas before in the story of Abraham there were long gaps of time. And years went by when God did not speak to Abraham. And Abraham had to continue to be faithful. But now things begin to move faster. In chapter 17, God said to Abraham, within 1 year, Sarah will have a child. And in chapter 18 and 19 is the story of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. By the time chapter 20 comes, we know that Sarah still does not look pregnant yet. Because how do we know that? Because the king of the Philistines, he wants to take her, Sarah, into his harem. Some of these words, some of these names are not personal names, they're titles. For example, Pharaoh is just the title of the king of Egypt. And Melchizedek means king of righteousness. And so we know that Adoni Zedek is another king's name. King Adoni Zedek. We already know that Adoni means Lord. Adoni Zedek, Lord King. Okay. Adoni Zedek would mean Lord King, mean Master King. Okay. So you can see the relationship between some of these words. And this person in chapter 20 whose name is Abimelech, who's called Abimelech. That might also be a title, a royal title. And you see, sometimes you have a person who becomes so famous that his name later becomes a title. Julius Caesar was like that. His name, Caesar, that was his name, but later it became the title of the rulers. We know there's another Abimelech later. In Jacob's time. There's another, well, later there's another Abimelech. And so whether that is a simple, that one is named after this one, or whether it is a title for all of those kings, that is unsure. Now, here it says that Abraham goes to this place and it's the territory of the Philistines. Now, sometimes people complain and they say the Philistines did not move into that area until about 700 years after Abraham's life.
Bible historian
And even Moses was living before the Philistines moved into that area. So the solution is one of two things. Sometimes before you have a mass movement into an area, you have some people from that cultural group who move in. Okay. And the same issue comes up with the Hittites, which are mentioned later in the Okay. Now, then there's another option, which is simply that you have an editor later, who is coming later and identifying the territory and calling it by the later name. For example, now we could say a history of India, and we could say that such and such person, king, moved into Haryana. Well, the place was not called Haryana back then. Haryana is a modern name, and we are using the modern name to show the location, but the story takes place before that state existed. So anyway, Abraham moves into this territory. Abraham is a herdsman. He has a lot of herds, and he has to keep moving because they have to keep grazing at new places. When he comes into this territory, he makes a mistake for the second time in his life. And that mistake is, he says that his wife is his sister. He did the same thing in Egypt years before. And he did it for the same reason. He was afraid. His wife was beautiful, and he was afraid that if people say no, that she is his wife, then they will kill him in order to take her. Now, there are a lot of wicked people in the world, but not everybody is like that. They need salvation, yes. But there are honest people in the world who are not yet believers. And Abraham makes this mistake by assuming that the king of the area is a selfish, cruel man. Abimelech takes Sarah for his harem, for his group of wives.